Hi everyone, my name is King IV and this is Introduction to SQL Server. In this case, what we'll be doing is actually learning just how to write queries using the SQL or SQL. And currently I'm using Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, which is based out of SQL Server Express 2014. And this is really meant to learn how to extract data, not necessarily or not at all how to maintain, update, or perform anything else that actually requires you taking care of the SQL Server or creating new tables. What we're really interested here is how to extract data from a data analyst or data scientist point of view from your IT or from your engineers. So let's go ahead and get started. The fundamentals of a SQL Server query or SQL query is these two functions, select and from. Select will tell you what columns you want to select, and then from will tell you what table do you want to select from. So in this case, if I'm looking here and I have, for example, the customer database, so here I want to go DBO. We don't need to do DBO yet. Say customers right here, and if I expand this here, I'll see that there's 4 columns. Maybe, for example, I only want customer ID and first name. So what you'll notice here is that when it had multiple field names, I had to put a comma in between. Let's go ahead and run that. So we run that, you'll see the results down here and how long it took. It didn't take any time extra at all, and the number of rows that exist in this database. So you see quite a few rows, pretty simple. If I want to add in more, I could add in, for example, middle, initial. I could even break this out to the second line. I'll just do this, and I'll just press F5 to rerun it, and you'll see here now middle initial is included as well, and it's null for some instances. Okay, perfect. So nothing too complicated. If I want to include them all I have to do is replace everything. Just go select star from customers. So run that. It's going to include all the columns in that particular table. But now what happens if I only want to include a subset of rows? So I only want to include, for example, I only want to include Aaron, first name. So in this case, I would go where first name is equal to Aaron. Aaron. And then you'll see here there's only 55 rows with Aaron. Okay, that's good. Maybe I want to include everything that's not equal to Aaron. So you see here now I have 19,704 rows. It's pretty quick, fairly quick. Obviously this is not a complicated database and it's not that many rows, but still fairly quick to go and filter around your results. If, for example, maybe I want to include everything that starts with an A, starts with an A. There's a number of ways I could do it. I could do a left here and do 1 is equal to A as an example. I could do it that way, and that's what that does there is it starts at the left and goes for 1 character. But the way I actually prefer is to do it this way with the like statement, and then do the %, which is kind of like a wildcard. So I'll say, give me all the first names that are like, starts with A, and then has some other components afterwards, or no components afterwards. And then you'll see here we have 1,996 rows available. Okay, that's good. Let me just get rid of this. And maybe, for example, I want to include just 2 names. So I could go first name is equal to Aaron, or first name is, but that's not very efficient. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this function called in, and then I'm going to say Aaron, comma, let's find another name, Brett. Now I have 77 rows. You'll see Aaron and Brett here. So the in function basically says, allows you to do a group of different options, matching options that are available. So that's good. That's handy. And for example, if I want to include multiple options, normally I would include in one line. Like for example, I'd go and last name. Let me just bring a second line. Last name, like, quotation percent, single percent, y. There you go. So that'll tell me all the ones that end with letter Y. If I want all the ones that contain the letter Y, I basically do the percent sign on both sides, which say give me all options where there's a Y somewhere in the text. Okay, perfect. So, or as well, I could do an or option, which would give me all the ones that meet this condition or meet this condition. As opposed to before, it had to be Brett or Aaron and had to have a Y in it. Oh, okay. Okay, that was weird. Anyway, so now you'll see here it includes not only Brett and Aaron, but everyone that also includes a Y or Brett or Aaron. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's look at the customer ID and filter from that way. So, for example, maybe I will, only want all the customer IDs that are greater than 100. Pretty simple. What happens if I want them all less than 100? Okay, you'll see I have 99 here. Maybe I want to include 100 as well. So then I'd go less than or equal to. Or maybe I want to include less than or equal to greater than. You do it that way. Or if I want it just equal to 100. What happens if I wanted, for example, every number between 100 and 1000 as opposed to everything greater than 100 or everything less than 1000? I could, for example, just do, if I'm assuming it's inclusive, I can do customer ID this way and go less than or equal to 1000. And then you'll see here I have 901 rows because it's inclusive. But that seems a little bit inefficient. Like, why do I have to do it that way? Is there a better way? And the answer is yes. And as well, this is a little bit harder to read, especially if you had many other where statements that filtered it. So here we go in between, you would say 100 and 1000. You'll see here. And it is as well inclusive. So something you have to take into consideration and factor in. Okay, so that seems useful. Let's go ahead and look at some other tables. So for example, here I have sales. And you'll see here the sales database is fairly large. It's not even actually completed running, even though we're not doing anything too complicated yet. I think it's like 560,000 rows. So in this database, you'll see a number of different options are available. So you'll see here I have customer ID, I have product ID, I have quantity, I have salesperson ID, and I have sales ID. Well, you notice that these are just numbers because these are referenced, the actual full details reference you'll see here. This is 6.7 million lines, so it's fairly large. So you'll see here that these are just IDs, and the actual full details is referenced in the customer, employee, and products databases. So let's go ahead and do a join here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take sales, and I'm going to put this identifier in front of it, DBO dot, and this just lets me know that it's coming from this particular database engine, in case you had multiple ones, which I don't in this case, but it's also useful to know. What I want to do is I want to also include the details from the other databases, other tables. So here I'm going to put an A, and that's just going to let me know short form that I'm referring to this table, particular columns. And I'm going to do a left join, DBO dot, I'm going to start with employees. B, I'm going to put the letter B, and I'm going to say join on salesperson ID is equal to, so A dot salesperson ID, so the salesperson ID from sales dot employee ID. So give me all the ones where there are joined, and do a left join. So that means give me all the data regardless whether or not there are any records in the employee database. I could also, so that's probably the most standard one I use. Depending on, we can talk further about other join options, but that's probably the most common one that I like to do. So you always start with not always, generally you would start with a larger table. So when we run this, now you'll see here I have employee ID, and you'll see employee ID and salesperson ID are the same. I have first name, I have middle name, last name, so a lot of really great and useful details. And I can just keep doing some other joins as well. So for example, if I want to include customer, I'll do left join DBO customers. I'm gonna call it C on A dot customer ID is equal to C dot customer ID. If I run that, I can't run it yet because it's still running here. I'll go ahead and write the rest of them as well. DBO dot products D on A dot customer, and you don't have to do A. You can make it. I could have made it sales. I could have made it employee, imp, unicorn, building, whatever it is. Next one I'm going to run is I'm going to include product ID is equal to D dot product ID. I'm just going to double check that that's what it's called here in this table, so you'll see it, product ID. And now when I run it, now I have all these different fields available. And then here I've selected star because I've included all the fields that I want to view. I could also write a query to adjust it to only include the fields I wanted. So if I only want to include, for example, when you do here, you can't just go salesperson ID because it won't know what table you're pulling from. So you have to go A dot salesperson ID, A dot sales, etc., etc. We're gonna take a closer look at that in a second. So you'll see here, because we're combining so many different tables and doing all these joins and whatnot, it's actually taking quite a while to run. Like currently we're almost done. So it takes about a minute to run. So is there a better way to dealing with this type of situation? And I'm going to tell you the answer is yes. So what we can do here is do this option called create view. And what view does is it automatically takes into consideration all these constraints and options that you've already identified, and then puts them into a view, which is this temporary table or temporary view of the tables. So here we're going to create view, and I like to start my views. Best practice is to start with VW, not the car manufacturer, VW, and then the name of it. So I'm going to call this sales master. And go as. So okay, here's the challenge I have now is all the columns have to be unique, and because there's customer ID in multiple tables and product ID in multiple tables, I'm gonna go ahead and write out the field names, and I'm gonna fast forward through this now. Okay, perfect. So you'll notice here I did a couple things I hadn't shown previously. You'll see I have the name here. So basically what this does is it'll rename the column name because I already had a first name somewhere else. So because I've created this view, we're going to go over here, and now you're going to see this view sales master. Don't worry about this VW test. That's why when I was practicing. And you're going to see here all these different columns that are now available. and all these different options that are available as well. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and create a new query off this. So you see I have my other query right here, and I'm gonna go select star. Let me just zoom in. Star from VW sales master. And then you'll see here how much faster it was actually to retrieve all this information that is available. Perfect. It's much faster and a lot easier to use. So whenever you can, obviously it's not done yet, but whenever you can, try to create a view, because it'll help speed up some of your analysis, speed up some of that extraction. So I'm going to leave it there. There's going to be a few other options that I'm going to cover in the next lesson, including select distinct, order by. I'm going to cover some aggregation functions, including filtering using those aggregation functions. But be sure to make sure that you watch this lesson before you watch the next one. And I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thank you.